Good morning, all. Today we'll start with your next unit, that is preparation of questionnaire. As you all know, in geography, we most often collect data, and you have this field work as well as project report. In the unit 1, that is the fourth subunit, is the preparation of questionnaires. Okay, welcome to the class. And we'll go step by step. As we know, there are various ways to generate data or the information. Either you go to the field, take the instruments, measure, direct observations are there, then interview, interact with the people, then get information that can be descriptive, or it can be information on the basis of certain data types. Then you can have a questionnaire where you have one pre-prepared set of questions, and then there are other data sources from various data files or already prepared data like census. So you have various ways to generate data. So one of important data collection tool is the questionnaire. Questionnaire, what is it? It's a research tool that is used to collect information from respondents. The respondents are selected by the scholar or the researcher on the basis of the objectives, what the scholar or the researcher wants to know. It consists of a series of questions. So everything is in the question form. You may ask a question and fill the questionnaire with that appropriate information. Questionnaire was invented by the Statistical Society of London way back in 1838. Still we are using. We have improvised it in many ways. Then the questionnaires are a good way of collecting the primary data. When you go to the field, collect directly from the respondent, it is primary. If you are getting from other sources, then that is secondary. Then why we go for questionnaire? What are the objectives of having a questionnaire? It's basically or the essentially to generate a combination of questions that serves the best in reaching the objectives. When you are going for any sort of research, you always have certain objectives and you have certain hypotheses or the research queries. To fulfill those objectives, you need to collect data, and for that you have to have a variety of questions. And to get the ground truth or the realities, when you go with a questionnaire set, then you understand what is there at the ground level. Okay, you can ask on your own with your own way of interaction and getting the data. To get information of contemporary time period or intended time frame, when you are going to the field, you ask the question. That means they are replying on that time period only. That's the contemporary time or the present time. Or you can ask what was there 10 years back, what was your income last year. So that is a time frame. You can take time frame 1 year, any previous year, or you can take a decade. Likewise, you can ask questions. Questionnaires are mostly designed for the statistical analysis of the responses. When the respondents are giving answers, those are called responses. So there are varieties of ways to calibrate it, standardize it, or even certain subjective answers can also be converted into data. We will see step by step in the next slides. So objectives of having questionnaire, its purpose is to collect information from the respondents who are scattered over a vast area. So that means you have to go to the field, they are scattered, your respondents are scattered, you have to go house by house or school, every school or hospitals like that, to get data from various locations. Those are scattered. In the descriptive studies, where the sources are varied and widely scattered, the questionnaire is a major instrument for gathering data. So what to do basically in that? So you have to go specific unit respondents and gather the data. Then explore idea, their concerns, the linkages with others, like with the government, with the NGO, with how they cope up with the flood or drought or irrigation facility, whatever, even not covered in the questions, that you can interact with them. So that means those are side things. You can enrich yourself by observing or understanding the nuances of data. So in this case, so this is one of the, in the right bottom photograph, you can see the scholars have interacted with that household lady who is very much having entrepreneurship capabilities, and she introduced most of the things, that means beyond what is there in the questionnaire. So that is the advantage. Okay, so what are the advantages if we enumerate them one by one? Use of questionnaires is a practical way to gather data. Yes, everybody accepts that. So that's a way to gather data. So that is why all of you had gone to Sikkim, and you are all sitting there in front of the Rumtek monastery there. Then a large number of issues can be addressed by it. Whenever you are going to the field work, you not only go for the questionnaires but also interact with other people who are in that same domain. The second photograph shows we were going to the government department of the Sikkim, where they arranged a lecture on 2 themes. So that is a practical way to gather data. You can get certain value additions. A large number of issues can be addressed by it. Okay. Each respondent answers the same set of questions, thus uniformity is maintained. So all the respondents are going to answer the same questions. So a variable or the parameter is fixed, so we don't change that. So we will get answer accordingly, so that we can enter the data in the same column. So you have how many? 38 of you have gone. So all of you have entered all the questionnaires in the same appropriate boxes. That means each box will have one answer, and it will be same for all the respondents as well as for the researchers who have gone there to the field to collect data. Then the most survey and questionnaires are quantitative in nature and allow easy analysis of the results. So once we go there, we try to generate data which we can test. So all of you know, so what we have used so far? Standard deviations. What are the variations within the data, that you can say? In the chi-square, we can see how much homogeneity is there, how they are standardized. Then we can have ANOVA, that means we have got different variables or from same variable different places basically. Then we can test whether they belong to the universal set or not, they have parity or not. Then we have the NNA, nearest neighborhood analysis. The respondents are there, they have their settlements are being used as a location, so whether the settlement is clustered or not. So likewise, this is spatial domain part. Then the cluster analysis. So you have data variable xy, you can have also x1, x2, x3. So like that you can put cluster analysis to find out what are the cluster centers. So there are many ways to analyze the data which we have gone to collect in the field. Then likewise, not only the advantages, we have certain disadvantages. It may be difficult to get a good response or answers to the questions. it requires a lot of skill. First, you have to convince the respondent. That means you are taking his service. That means you are asking certain questions to him, and that will be what used for academic purpose here, and privacy is maintained. Else, why anyone will answer your questions? Because it takes time, energy, and in return you are giving them nothing. So in that way, so one can say also they're not interested in giving any answer. Then it's a subjective attitude of respondent matters a lot for quality of data. Suppose somebody is in a hurry, he may listen or may not listen to your question in full, understand the questions, and can say anything which may be unrelated sometimes. So the researcher must be very careful to judge whether the person or the respondent is giving appropriate and accurate data, else there will be a problem. And sometimes what happens, doesn't understand your language. We had in one case when you had gone to Mizoram, there is a problem of language because they were speaking in Mizo and do not understand Hindi or English much, so that was a problem. So likewise, you have to be very careful. In those cases, you can take one local interpreter also. Then unanswered questions may create a problem. Suppose what you do, you have filled up questions, then sometimes you skip something, or he gives a lengthy answer to your questions which you don't find it is appropriate, or you could not decipher from it, so you leave it. So blank questions always do create problem. Then questions of privacy may arise. So that's what we have discussed. You cannot ask certain questions openly. So there are so many ways. You have to very handle those things in a skillful way. Suppose you have missed something, you cannot go back, because you cannot right now go back to Sikkim and those villages to get data if you have missed anything. So it has to be systematic, step by step. So that is why disadvantages must be taken care of well by the researcher. Then the questionnaire design process. Once we know what are the advantages and disadvantages, then accordingly we must design the questionnaire. Number one is to determine what information is required, what the scholar wants to find out. So everybody has a objective. Everybody has an objective or set of objectives in their research work. So what we do basically, we decide the theme, we decide the geographic area, then time that will be taken. Suppose your fourth semester field trip and the whole program is only one semester. You cannot go for a research that takes more than 3-4 months at best. So accordingly, you have to decide what should be the objective and whether those objectives can be realized in this much time frame. So it may comprise single theme. Say all of you have been given different themes: socioeconomy, demography, education, income, like this. And those who are in the physical part, they were also given other themes. So all of you will be working on different themes. So accordingly, you will be framing the objectives, as well as on the basis of the objectives you will be framing the questions. Or it may have multiple themes or sub themes also. Say demography, in that there can be multiple things: birth rate, death rate, mortality, morbidity, so many things. So you can add those things, or even income and birth rate, medical facilities, death rate. You can associate so many themes and make it multiple theme questionnaire. So questionnaire design process, second part, decide on the audience for the questionnaire. Audience means your target. So what you have first is the whole target population. Suppose you had gone to Sikkim, that means the total population of Sikkim in that way, or all the households of the Sikkim. So you are looking for medical facilities, then you are looking for all the hospitals of the Sikkim. So in that way, that is the target population. It may be a part of population as a sample. Suppose you are taking the infants, so age 1, 2 like that. Suppose you are taking the children not going to the school. That means all the children who have not registered in the school, including those 1, 2, 3, or you can have a population sample like population group like what the children who are not going to school but beyond the schooling age group. So that you can formulate many target population, and part of the population you will be taking as a sample. So suppose you have 50,000 is the population target, then accordingly you will decide whether you will be taking 200, 100, 500 samples. So we will discuss all this, how to take sample, in next lecture. These samples can be at individual level, or it can be house level, household level, village level. Then say transport facilities, you will not take for the household level, you will be taking for the village level. So suppose you are having land, so it will be household level. Suppose income, then individual level. Education, individual level. So you have to decide at what level you are going to ask the questions, and it will be from any particular area or region. Then the third aspect of the questionnaire design is the decide on a method of data collection. How we are going to collect data? Questionnaire is like you prepare to question and hand over it to the respondent by post, by telephonic conversation you can ask, by electronic media you can set a PDF file or a Word file like that they can, or it can be administered personally. In our case, we have all gone to the field. All the scholars have collected data through a set of questionnaire, and it has been administered in person. So likewise, the questionnaires or the data is basically collected. Then what else are done? Basically, you have to prepare the draft questionnaire thoroughly by checking the coverage of content as per the objectives. So before going to the field or before collecting data, you must ensure that as per the requirements which you have envisaged in the objectives, the questions must cover those. Then the wording should be simple and unambiguous. There should not be any ambiguity. What will happen? You are asking something, the reply will be something else. So you can also practice with your friends. If this is the question, what could be the answer? Okay. Then the format, type of questions, level of measurement. Okay, we discussed in the last one. Levels of measurement, the units of data obtained. Suppose you are going to, some are saying the land, somebody is saying acre, somebody is saying the decimal, gunt, decimal. So there are different units, and sometimes somebody will say those who are daily wage laborers, they will say per day income. So then you have to convert it into annual income. Those are salaried people, they will say monthly income. So you have to multiply it by 12. Some will be saying annual income. Those who are in agriculture, their income cycle is annual basis. So they will say annual income. So accordingly, you have to be very careful the units and the time frame. So there should be enough space for those to be recorded in the questionnaire. Then the structure, you have to maintain a sequence. It has to be correct. Then there should be also scope for cross verification, so that when you are going to ask the respondent, then whatever he is saying is validated to a great extent. Else what you will find, there is mismatch in the answer types or the answers given to you. Then layout, it has to be simple, radio buttons, boxes, question specifics, adequate space, comprehensiveness is there. So as you see, this is what we got the questionnaire. You have filled it up, so we have made it a compact, so there should not be also much of unused spaces, and your questionnaire should not run into 5, 10, 20 pages. So it has to be crisp, and whatever information you want, that must only be there in the questionnaire. Then types of questions. A variety of types of questions are available to be placed by the researcher. Subject matter and expected answer types must be understood to decide the type of questions to be employed in the questionnaire. What sort of answer? What should be the possible range of answers must be thought of beforehand. So multiple choice questions, rating scale, Likert scale, matrix, drop down, open-ended, demographic, ranking, image choice. So photography is also required. Suppose you are taking something like a crop, you can say. Then the fruits in that area, so you can take photograph, image choice. File upload, then slider questions, benchmarkable questions, so many. So we'll discuss few which you have used and important. Not all, you can go through other websites for that. So open questions. Open questions means we solicit the views or the opinion of the respondent. We want the answer not in digital form, not in numbers, rather there will be descriptions. What you need most for your area. That means what sort of amenities or facilities you need in your area so that your life is easier. So he will describe as per his observations. So that will be open question, descriptive type. So there should be enough space to write. And you need not write also the full sentence. You can write the phrases which are important in his answer. Then multiple choices are there, because the range is not few, many. Find out many possibilities, because whatever you have thought this could be the answer, the respondent may say many more, even which you have not thought of. An unexpected answer is also possible. So in those spaces you cannot have boxes or the circles. So likewise, you have has your objectives of coming here, say migrant person coming here means to the present place, fulfilled, then he may have many objectives fulfilled. That means his wishes are fulfilled, but you record best one. So that means prioritizing also. That's also descriptive for the open questions, open-ended questions. Then we have closed options. There is definite number of options as answers. Choices are limited to few. It can be binary, like yes or no. A checkbox allows more than one selection. Checkbox means like this. You have why yes or no, that's binary. Say 20 to 30, 40 to 50, like that. So you have different boxes, that is range based, that's also boxes. Then radio buttons. Radio buttons means only one out of those following mentioned will be acceptable, not many. Then demographic questions, which are very much essential to utilize it as core as well as the background information to analyze or understand the scenario or the theme. So these are all essential in their characteristics. It has fixed answers. Arrangement of question matters to keep it concise as well as linked. Say how it is done here. See, male members in the age group, write age in the box and education. Say 0 to 6. Why you have segregated? That means immediately you can segregate those number of persons or male members which will not be counted in the literacy. Then 6 to 15, that means schooling age. Then 16 to, they can be non-dependents, or they can be engaged in the independent income. Then 65 and above, again those are dependent population. So likewise we have boxes. We have to write only the age. If you mention 1, 2, 3, so that means age, you have already mentioned age, then you can also count. You need not write 3 children, age this much, this much, this much. No, because that counting now can be done by the Excel sheet software you are using. So highest class. So instead of writing class 5, class 10 or BA, MA, so what we can do? We can write the number. Say class 5, 5. Say past 10 plus 2 plus 3, so that means we'll write 15. Suppose completed master degree, then we write 17. So likewise, once we make those numbers, we know that's a number of years in education. So that corresponds to some degree. So age at marriage, likewise we have for the female section. Everything is segregated, but compact to understand the data and utilize the data. Or there can be matrix option, multiple targets and multiple questions. Say individual code, occupation code, then monthly income. If you are getting monthly income, then you can convert it into the annual income, you can find out to the monthly. So whoever says monthly, so fill it in the monthly. Whoever saying in the annual, fill it in the annual. So by utilizing little space, you are quite comfortable in writing the answers or the data easily. Then the types of questions, next is the scaled questions, where there exists sense of proportion. There only we can make the scale. Say rating scales. So you can have 1 to 10, 1 to 5. If you are saying it's a 0 to 100, then we are thinking in terms of percentage. That's the easier way to convert. Then another one is the Likert scale. It's basically psychometric scale, which where the questions are based on this scale are normally used in a survey. Basically, satisfaction. That's basically psychological understanding, setup, like that. So you can have, say, suppose are you satisfied with the present stay here? So he may strongly disagree, undecided, agree, and strongly agree. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That means by this. Okay. Then next is your not at all likely. Say how satisfied about education facility in your area. So not means 0. Then you can continue up to very likely. So you can also have 0 means 0, 1 means 20%, 40%, 60%, 80%, and 100% in that way. So basically there is a lot of flexibility in that, as well as it helps in capturing the people's or the respondent attitude or psychological adjustment to the scenario. So likewise, what you have seen already, this is your questionnaire first part, then the questionnaire second part. You see individual code. We are not writing the name of the person or who is he, or we are not making the table lengthy there. So what we are doing is say individual code. Here is the individual code we have put. See M1, M2, M3, M4, M5, M6. Because this occupation we have completely excluded which group? 0 to 6 age group. So likewise, so here also 6 to 15 you can say child labor if anybody is engaged in that way. So it gives a flexibility as well as the connectivity or the linkages between the questionnaires what you have framed. Then next is this. Then you have used matrix, you have used a Likert scale, a rating scale, then simply boxes, like that. We have a variety of questions as the type of questions you have in your questionnaire. Then besides that, when you are having a questionnaire, so you may not remember all those things. Sometimes a supportive information base is required or some explanations required. So those things are also there in this what we will list of occupations code. These are as per the NSSO. Okay. So with this we conclude. I hope you have got any query, so you can ask me directly, and the sampling part will take up in the next class. Thank you.